Hello and welcome to another episode of Speak, Film, and Enter, a podcast where we review and rank movies. I'm Nate.
And I'm Dylan.
Today we're reviewing the new movie from Cooper Raiff that won the Audience Award at the Sundance Film Festival, which is now streaming as of last weekend on Apple TV Plus, and that is Cha-Cha Real Smooth. Dylan, do you want to tell the people what it's about?
Absolutely. Cha-Cha Real Smooth is a comedy drama about a young man who works as a bar mitzvah party host who strikes up a friendship with a mother and her autistic daughter. Which is, I suppose, an accurate description of the movie, but I feel like that's also kind of not an accurate description.
It doesn't really give you an idea of what kind of movie it is.
It's just like a plot point, kind of.
Right. To give you more of an idea, Cooper Raiff, who is the writer and director and lead in this movie, this is his second movie. He's 24 years old, I want to say.
That's pretty impressive.
He plays a character named Andrew. Mm-hmm. And we get something in some ways similar to like Adventureland, or we've seen these movies before, right? With like the kind of post-college, what am I going to do with my life? And he moves back home. His girlfriend is studying abroad in Spain, and he seems to be the only one who doesn't realize that they've broken up. Mm-hmm. And he's home living with his parents, his mom's new husband or boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really remember.
Husband, I think, at this point.
Yeah, because I saw this back in January. And,
oh, really?
Yeah.
I finished it like 30 minutes ago, so we're coming at this from very different.
Yes, we are. And then, and his younger brother, who's in middle school, and specifically at the age where it's bar and bat mitzvah time for his younger brother. Everybody's turning 13, and his mom asks him to accompany his younger brother to one of the bar mitzvahs because they can't take him. And he goes, and while he's there, he kind of has to be the one to kind of get everybody out of their seats and having fun and on the dance floor. Yeah. And all the moms are so impressed with how he does that they want to hire him to be at their child's bar or bat mitzvah to make sure that everybody has a good time, and he becomes a party starter. Also at this first party, he meets a woman named Domino, played by Dakota Johnson, and her daughter, Lola, played by Vanessa Burghardt.
Yes.
And she's of the same age as all these other kids, so he's going to be seeing them at a lot of these events. And they sort of spark up a friendship, and it just sort of progresses from there with him seeing them and kind of getting ingratiated into their life and just running these parties for children with his college degree, and that's what he's doing with his life at this point.
Mm-hmm. And along with all of that, it establishes that this movie definitely is like, there is romance in this movie, and it's kind of about like love is like part of it. Like he's, like, you know, him and Dakota Johnson definitely have like a thing, but she's, you know, has a fiance. So it's kind of like, you know, doomed from the start, but you can tell that like mostly from the very opening scene, which I thought was fantastic. I think that the opening, first off, like the opening, like 2.5, 3 minutes, it's like, it starts with really great, like visual storytelling. And then we get like a little bit of resolution, but it's basically him when he's like 10 at some party, or like maybe like 12. I forgot
about this scene completely.
Yeah, you forgot about that? Okay, yeah, because this is like honestly one of my favorite beginnings to a movie I've seen in a long time, because I just think it fits so perfectly. Yeah. He's like 12 years old, and he's at some sort of like school event, or maybe another, or like some.
I think he's at a bar mitzvah.
Oh yeah, so he's maybe like 13, but there's some like kind of older girl who's probably working there.
She's the party starter.
She's the party starter. Oh, I didn't even really put that together, actually. I just figured, until right now. Okay, yeah, I thought she was just kind of like helping run things. But, you know, she's in like a jersey, and like they're, you know, handing out things and kind of dancing and stuff. And he's clearly like head over heels, like in love with her. And basically he works up the courage to like ask her out, even though she's like at least probably like 18, or, you know, she's older. And she's like, oh, that's very sweet, but like, I'm old. And then it cuts to him just heartbroken. And then directly from that, we go to him, you know, 22 in college. And then his girlfriend at the time, like, is like, hey, I'm going to Barcelona, and breaks up with him. And he's heartbroken again. and then he meets Dakota Johnson. So it's like that's definitely a theme in the movie. I wouldn't call this like a romantic comedy, but like I also feel like it would be a good date movie. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Like there's elements of it, and I think those elements were executed really well. And just before we move on, I gotta say, like the first 5 seconds of this movie, the opening image with the music is hilarious, and also like genius. Like it's one of my favorites in a long time. Like from the very beginning. I'm not gonna ruin it, but
I will be rewatching this. I meant to before the episode, but just didn't get to
watch
it.
the first like 3 minutes again. It's so good. But yeah. And then also that kind of sets up a lot of the things that happen later in the movie, like theme wise. And I just thought it was really well done. And then I guess, I didn't, I've never seen Cooper Raiff in anything before. You said
it's only his second movie, and he's not an actor really by like he's been the lead in his own movies.
Yeah.
And his first movie came out in 2019 or 2020 called Shithouse, which was about a college freshman. It's the name of a frat in the movie. Okay. It's about a college freshman who is just not adapting to life away from home as quickly as a lot of his peers are, and kind of feeling out of place in that setting, and just not being able to really understand like why it's so easy for everybody else and why is this so hard for me. Kind of a movie. Okay. And so yeah, he's made 2 movies now, and this one, of course, like Apple bought it for like a bunch of money, and he just won like Sundance Awards. Like he's really coming up.
I was really impressed by him pretty much all around. Like he has a very natural likability. He has good comedic timing. He can also pull off the emotional scenes, and also like I felt all the characters were very well written, and he wrote it. So it's like I'm admiring like his performance. And then I'm also thinking like, man, all the characters are really well written. It's like, oh, and that's also him. And then I'm also thinking like, I like the way it's shot. Like I like the colors. I just like it has like kind of a softness to it, but I just really enjoyed visually the aesthetic. I really liked. It was just, I don't know. It felt very like grounded, but just kind of like well done. And it's all him. And I just kept coming back to that. I'm like, man, this guy is just killing it right now. And then his chemistry with Dakota Johnson was very good too, I thought.
Yeah, the movie's definitely got like an Apatow feel. Not as like raunchy as some of that stuff, but kind of like the elements that Apatow will help add to like a Seth Rogen movie, where you're just like, oh, there's like actually an emotional core to this raunchy comedy. It's just kind of like that.
Mm-hmm. But more subtle humor, less, like you said, less kind of out there stuff, very much little quips and little jokes. But
that's why I compared it a little bit to Adventureland. I think that's like kind of the feel of it, and the sort of post-college figuring out what you want to be and what you want to do with your life and feeling stuck. I will say that I really liked him in this movie too, but he's in like all of it, and he's a lot in a way.
Okay. I could see that.
I'm really just making the point that this movie kind of hinges on whether or not you like the main character. If he bothers you, you're going to hate this movie, because he's just, it's all about him, and he's in like every scene, and he's very sweet and vulnerable and quirky. And I can see that bothering some people. I like this movie a lot. But just kind of giving people an idea, I think, of like what they might be getting into. Or like if you watch the trailer and think like, oh, he looks annoying, well, then he's probably going to be annoying to you in the whole movie. No, but if you watch the trailer and think this looks good, then you're probably going to like the movie, I think. So
yeah, and it is kind of interesting where, he's 22 and it's kind of about the things you were talking about, but almost none of the other characters that we actually get to know are like his friends or his age.
Just like there's one really.
There's one who's his age. Other than that, he's dealing with adults, and then he's dealing with kids.
And that is intentional, I think, and really well done. And it goes to the themes of this movie, which I like a lot, which are, when you don't know what you want to do and the future frightens you, there are kind of 2 things that you can do. One of which is it can become very appealing to retreat to the comfort of your youth.
Yes.
Which with the party starting thing, he's just and he's just like hanging out with 13-year-olds all summer at bar mitzvahs, and like, they're paying him to do it, and he's good at it, but like, this isn't like a path forward for him. The other thing is that the character in this movie is somebody whose 20s, he doesn't seem to know what to do with them. And so I think it's really good writing to have him be attracted. Well, first off, Dakota Johnson's a very attractive person, and that's just easy to do. But to be attracted to a person who's already beyond that what do I do with my life stage, and instead of trying to start your own life, you just sort of try to latch on to somebody else's who seems like they already kind of have it going. It's sort of like in this just made me think of this, but like in How I Met Your Mother, when Marshall and Lily break up for a little while, and then like Marshall doesn't know what to do. And he tells Ted, like, I was good at being Lily's boyfriend. I'm not good at dating. And he's all of a sudden like directionless. And that's kind of another thing that this movie is about, which is where it's terrifying in your early 20s to look at it and realize, like, especially like with our generation and younger, that like the blueprint isn't there, or the blueprint of like post-college marriage kids has been pushed back to an expectation of like when you're 30.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what he's looking at of like, hey, maybe I'll just like latch on to these other people's lives who are like already doing the like domestic housewife kids thing.
Forward. Yeah.
Exactly.
I'll skip the whole
which is the whole point of like, he's not
30s.
Yes, which is the whole point of him not really being that interested in socializing with people his own age in this movie.
Yeah, and also that works really well because, you know, Dakota Johnson's character keeps saying things that basically insinuate like you should appreciate your 20s, and like she is already at the end of that. But he, you know, so he views it as
she has like a 15-year-old daughter.
Yeah, like we can do this together, where actually it's like, no, she's lived through all that and she's found kind of the finish line. And she like is trying to impress upon him that like you actually shouldn't just skip the whole race, like, and it's not, you know,
shouldn't take a shortcut.
Yeah, you can't take a shortcut. And I really like the way that her fiance was written and like how that played out. And also I gotta say, even the Brad Garrett character, basically his stepdad.
So we didn't even mention the parents. His mother's played by Leslie Mann and stepdad by Brad Garrett, and the relationships there, I like both of them. I thought the relationship with his stepdad, played by Brad Garrett, was a little fresher. There was a little more there that I felt like I haven't seen a lot of, whereas Leslie Mann's character felt a little bit more like just kind of a mom.
Yeah.
And she felt a little underutilized, but I liked the back and forth between Cooper Raiff and Brad Garrett in this movie quite a bit.
And I like the way that both like her and Brad Garrett, and then also like Dakota Johnson, her fiance, it kind of like his interpretation, his perception of those like relationships is at first like, oh, it looks like they're super unhappy, but then like as the movie goes on, you find out that like, no, it's just they're at a point in their life where the things that they value and the things that keep them together are not stuff you notice right away. They're stuff that you actually have to get, like, you have to wait to see them emerge.
Right.
And like, and I love like that scene when they're driving home after there's a big thing that happens. I won't ruin it, and they're kind of like cheering on Brad Garrett, and he kind of like smiles and kind of lets.
I love that scene.
Incredible scene. Like it just added so many layers to his character, and just in like one like facial expression. That was really well done. But yeah, I just felt like the themes and the characters and everything, it was very well put together, like from start to finish. Like I said,
I totally agree.
I loved the first 3 minutes, and it felt like it held it together. I agree that especially now that you mention it, that, you know, it's extremely built on him and whether you like him and care about what happens to him. But I found him extremely likable, and like, I don't know, it worked for me.
The one thing really, as I think about it more, that I think could bother people is just how genuine he is. And how in your face about being genuine he is. And I can see that inducing some eye rolls.
Yeah.
But like we've said, I think both of us liked his performance and liked the way his character was written. I do want to jump into two other characters in the kind of the last thing I want to make sure we get to. Dakota Johnson is becoming like one of my favorite actresses in the world. She is phenomenal in this movie. She has a couple of lines too that just about like broke me. They have some conversations about depression. And I can't, like I said, I saw this movie like 6 months ago at this point, and I can't remember specifically what those lines are. Not that I want to repeat them here necessarily, but just some of the conversations they have are really good. And also Vanessa Burghardt as Lola is very good. She also has autism in real life. And I believe this is the first and only thing she's ever done. And I love the casting here. And her relationship with Andrew, Cooper Raiff's character in this movie, is really sweet. And I like that he treats her just like a person. He doesn't tuck down to her ever. It's just a very, I don't know. I like their relationship quite a bit. And I liked her performance and Dakota Johnson's performances a lot.
It felt their interactions always felt so genuine, and like there weren't Hollywood moments. It was just a lot of like, he's just being genuinely nice and she's being herself, and they're like having a good time together because like it just all felt so natural. Like, and I like how there were times where she just was like, I just want to go be in solitary. Like, I'm a little overwhelmed right now.
Yep.
It's like, yeah, I bet. Like that happened, I don't know. It just, I really like that too. And I thought her performance was great. Just very like consistent and just well done. And yeah, I really enjoyed their characters. I'm glad that we shouted her out.
Yeah, had to bring them up for sure because they're a very big part of the movie. They're the two biggest roles outside of Cooper Raiff's role.
And I guess one more small role. I liked the little subplot with his younger brother too.
Yep, I like that as well.
It was just a nice touch, once he moves back home and they establish that like he's basically sleeping on the floor in his brother's room.
Yep.
And then he kind of helps him with some tips with girls and stuff and just kind of having more confidence. And there's nothing groundbreaking there, but it was just another nice little subplot that kind of, made me smile, made me chuckle a few times. Yeah, it was well done.
For sure.
All right.
Do you have anything else or do you want to get into the stars?
I think we can get into the stars.
Okay. We will be right back with our star ratings. Okay. So, do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
So I'm going to give this a 4.5 out of 5.
Wow.
I really liked this. I thought it, like I've mentioned, I just thought it was very well put together. I thought all the performances were great. The characters just seemed honest and real. It just, I don't know, it felt like a very honest portrayal of a lot of, that kind of age range where you don't know what you're doing. And especially for like our generation or the generations coming up, like very relatable for me, maybe not for everybody, but just like, I just felt like Cooper Raiff really killed it. And then, I was between a 4 and a 4.5. And the more that I thought about it, the fact that he wrote and directed and starred in it, that always like gets an extra bump from me. I just respect that so much. I think we had an episode where we ranked our favorite movies that are directed, written, and starring the same character.
We did.
And that was a fun episode. And movies like that, when you can find them and when they're good, I find them so impressive. So I was between a 4 and 4.5, and I'm just going to go ahead and give it a 4.5 out of 5. I think it's one of my favorite movies of the year so far. And I would definitely recommend it to pretty much anybody.
Yeah, I think we pretty much agree about everything because I'm also between a 4 and a 4.5. I'm going to sit at a 4 for now, but it makes me so happy that you liked this a lot because I saw it at Sundance and was just hyping this up for like 6 months.
I know you've been talking it up, and it's like, oh man, and then honestly, from that first when it started out, I laughed out loud and I was like, okay, this is gonna be a good time. Like Nate was right.
And so I will watch this again. This is I'm right between. I'm at like a 4.2, 4.25 or somewhere in that range, kind of. So I'm sitting at a 4. Whenever I'm kind of between, I generally like to be on the more reserved side.
I do too.
But this is a great movie. It may be even better than that. I'm going to rewatch this again. This could go up to 4.5. It's also one of my favorite movies of the year so far. And I'm going to be recommending this to a lot of people, as I already have been for the last 6 months.
All right. That's a strong recommendation from the Speak Film and Enter guys on Cha Real Smooth. Just a great time. And was there anything else, or is it your turn to put a wrap on the show?
It is my turn to put a wrap on the show.
All right, take it away.
You can't just sit there and put everybody's life ahead of yours and think that counts as love.